What was your first job you got into?
Your family would encourage you to go and have your hair cut.
But have you ever faced any racism back in those days?
It was a place where we belonged. It was
Yeah.
a place where we saw Sikh in action.
I would not hire people like you.
Yeah.
How was that feeling at that time?
From being in the farms to RCMP,
Yeah.
what was in between and how did that journey start?
Hardship molds you. Hardship gives you opportunity to grow.
What was the first feeling when you actually wear the uniform?
Right after that, he said, all you got to do now is just, cut your hair, remove your turban, shave your beard. We're good to go.
So when did you decide, okay, I'm going to fight for this and I'm going to stay firm to my decision and also be RCMP?
Chief came out and said, no way in God's green earth are we ever changing our policy to allow anyone with a turban to join the...
We looked at that there were 250K petitions signed against you
Yeah.
during that time.
There were road signs on highways that, big road signs that said no to turbans in the RCMP and a big, no entry sign.
When all of this was happening, was there concerns of your safety?
Talked about C12, the modernizing the immigration policy of Canada.
We had our premier come out and say as well that we need this bill to support some of the issues that we're facing here in BC with extortions and so on and so forth.
And how closely the Canadian government is looking at the crime that you just spoke about in BC.
We don't have to get warrants to get information that a government agency already has.
Mark Carney been visiting to India. How's the relationships going to go from here?
If you work hard, if you commit, if you give it your all, this country will meet you.
What kind of response you guys have so far received when it comes to Indian agencies?
Do you think we will be still so dependent on states or no?
Prime Minister Carney has done a fantastic job in going around the world, building new agreements, building new, opportunities.
Where do you see Canada in the next 5 years?
We have lost so many young lives to organized crime and gangs through violence and shootings in other places.
Out of all of these cases going on, what's the number one project on your list?
If you see people running away from something, that's where you want to go to because that's where the opportunity is.
Welcome to another podcast at the 2 Cents Show. Our guest today is none other than Senator Baltej Dhillon. He has created a history in Canada, being the first RCMP who has turban. He fought through his life to make this history. He started his career in berry picking, moving toward RCMP, and now as a senator appointed by Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada. So we have Senator Baltej Dhillon with us on the podcast today. How are you, sir?
Wonderful. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure that you took some time today and to be on the show. It's a pleasure as well as an honor to have you on the show.
Grateful.
Yeah,
We
no,
have-
especially with your busy schedule where
It's-
you fly back and forth between Ottawa and here. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it. It's my privilege.
Yeah, I think today a lot of people know about you, but a lot of people don't know about your journey where you started. So especially our age people. So I think it's the time now to let them know what that motivation and what the inspiration was to be at this level where you are today. So we'll start with the background. So where you were born.
Sure. And you're right to say that people your age, because this is now a journey of some 40, 45 years. So looking at the both of you back then, your parents were still kind of maybe even in the dating stage. I don't know.
Yeah.
Still contemplating. And I suspect many of your viewers who are at that same age, and I
Right.
used to say that they were just a twinkle in their parents' eye, but now they're, I've gotten older and they've gotten younger. So this is, so born and raised in Malaysia, in the city of Kuala Lumpur. That's where my parents, my father was, first generation Malaysian. My mother was second generation Malaysian. So we were raised in Kuala Lumpur. There's 6 siblings. So, there's two younger sisters, 2 older sisters, and an older brother. And I'm kind of in the middle. And so I grew up in a warm tropical country, 28, 30 degrees all day round, all day long and all year long.
Right.
So very different than this place. Yes.
Yeah. So you studied there as well? And
Yes. I got to comparatively grade 12. It was
Grade
Form 5 in Malaysia.
Okay.
The education system, I think, follows very similar to the Indian system.
Right.
In Southeast Asia, you have standards and you have forms. So you go up to, I think, standard 8 or standard 6, and then you start then form 1, form 2, form 3, form 4, form 5.
Okay.
And so I was in form 5, and after form 5, you go into college or university. And so I was about to graduate form 5 when my father passed away from natural causes. And as a result of that, we then made a decision as a family to move to Canada. My brother was already here.
Okay.
He was trying to get established. He was going to school. He had
Right.
gotten married, so he had status. And after Dad passed away, Bapaji passed away, he was a breadwinner. So it would have all fallen onto my mother's shoulders or me.
Right.
And so it was better, I think, for the entire family that we were able to move to Canada, and so my brother sponsored us, and I'm eternally grateful to this country, to Canada, that allowed our family to come to Canada, be repatriated, and start a new life here.
And which year was that when you planned to move to Canada?
That was 1983.
83.
Yes.
How was Canada back those days?
Yeah. How were the people? How was the culture and everything?
very, very different. Very different than what you see today. Canada in 1983 was a Canada that was still just learning about, multiculturalism and diverse communities.
Right.
And for them, it didn't matter if you were a Muslim, Hindu, or Sikh. You were all Hindus at that time, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we were all painted with the same brush. Didn't matter who you were. And there was a lot of ignorance and very little, education, materials, very little sort of active effort to inform the population about the diversity. And so when we talk about equity, diversity, and inclusion, EDI and DEI as we know it today, none of that existed back then. It was sort of everybody to their own.
Right.
While Canada was very welcoming, once you got here, there were many, many challenges still. There was still a lot of prejudice. There was still a lot of racism. So you had to work your way through that. There weren't as many, people of racialized communities here by then. It was growing, but we were still a very small minority.
But have you ever faced any racism back in those days?
Every day.
Every day?
How was that like?
So I came here, and my first the first thing you do is you start school. So I went to Frankfurt Secondary. And so generally speaking, on the way to school, on the way back to school, from school. And so I wore at the start, I wore a turban back then as well. So let me give you, I guess, some insight. I mean, one of the things that the community was doing back then was that there was a purposeful, deliberate effort to dilute one's identity. So what that means is simply this, that if you landed here and you had the spot and you had long hair and you had a beard, your family would encourage you to go and have your hair cut and get shaven so that you could fit in. I got asked that question as well on day 2 that I was here. When are you going to go to the barbershop? And I said,
is it for the survival?
Yeah, just so that you're not,
face racism as
correct.
That much.
You were not targeted. You fit in. You were not seen as different. You could get a job. All of that stuff, right?
Right.
So I got asked the same question. I said, that was probably my first test through the creator when I got asked. And, my answer was very clear. I had made a promise to my father. This is a legacy. This is important. My identity is important to me. And so when I got asked that question, I said, no, I'm not doing that. And my brother, who was here, he had already cut his hair. When his family that was, his in-laws asked him, when's your brother going to go cut his hair? He said, you better ask him yourself.
Because many people would choose the other option. They would go and cut their hair.
I mean, and I don't blame them.
Right.
I don't hold I'm not begrudging them. It was a difficult place. It was a difficult time. I made that decision not knowing any of those
Right.
challenges, just being very clear about, this was not something that I was willing to give up.
And also, like, I do want to say, even if, like, back then, like, you were like a high school kid, and since you made, like, a promise to your dad, you might have like, chal koi na, like, never mind. I'll like still do like what I need to do, but you still kept that promise. It just says a lot. Like, yeah, I'm gonna mean
16 years old.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. 16 years old. I loved my father dearly. He was, larger than life to me. Someone that's remains my role model today to this day. A mentor. Someone that was deeply respected in the community. Someone who commanded the room and commanded the space wherever he was, and gave of himself. And I often say this, that his faith was his actions. You could see it every day, and I saw it every day. So to give that up, I couldn't even imagine a time or a place. Yeah.
Well, I do want to ask this question. Like, yes, you moved to Canada, but also like you were in a different country. Like you were in Malaysia, right?
Yeah.
So again, like I don't think so. Like Punjabis are that common there. Did you see racism there?
Yes. Yeah. So there was racism in Malaysia as well.
Yeah.
Although not to the same extent as here. Racism in Malaysia was, just kids, young people.
Okay.
Not adults.
Not adults.
Not the matured community.
More of a bully.
Yeah, that's right. It was just stuff that happened in school.
So kind of like you knew how to handle it.
Correct. It wasn't systemic. It wasn't in that, the adult population.
Yeah.
The adult population, people knew. People knew who you were. They knew what the contributions were of Sikhs in World War I, World War II. We were well established. I mean, the Sikhs in Malaysia, they held high posts. They were judges. They were lawyers. They were heads of police departments and police chiefs. They were part of the government. So we were well respected. We had standing. We had status, and we've been there for some time. The racism we talk about is, as you say, bullying. It's just that kind of
or high school thing.
High school thing. It was there.
Right.
But there wasn't any of that at that, higher, at that more mature age. Here, walking to school on a Monday morning or a Tuesday morning, you'd see people going to work, adults that would yell, "Paki," something like that out of their cars.
Like grow up. I'm sorry.
If you'd stop for a minute or two, I'll tell you where Pakistan is and where India is and where Malaysia is.
Right. You need to learn more about the other countries and cultures.
But it was just from a place of this hatred, this ignorance, and that it was somehow allowed and it was accepted.
Yeah.
But by the time like Sikhs came back in like 18th century, I guess, I would say.
1897.
And you're talking about 100 years later as well.
Yeah.
And they have done a lot to the country.
Yeah.
So what do you think, like, why this was happening even after a century?
Because there was not a lot of education. There was not a lot of sharing of information. I mean, back then now we joke that in Surrey, if you walked out of your home, walked for 5 minutes, there'll be a gurdwara there.
True.
It is quite true.
Yeah.
Back then, I think there was 3. So they weren't the same kind of exposure. There wasn't the same type of awareness, education.
So the culture wasn't incorporated well by that time.
No, not at that time. It was still maturing. We were still working towards becoming part of, Canadians' diaspora. So the indicator is when you as a community are having to change the way you look to fit in, is the indicator. It is the signal that maybe
something's
we're not
wrong
completely accepted yet. Right.
And also, like, what was different in your childhood, or something was different which like shaped you for the person you are today, or the paths you chose? Like, what led you to choose all of this?
Well, I never set out to become a police officer. What was clear in my life, or what what I think the greatest gift I was given in my sort of childhood was that I was part of a community and in Malaysia, and grew up in a space where the Gurdwara and home were inseparable. They were both our homes. And so we learned how to put our Sikhi into action.
Yeah.
We would come home on days and we would, throw our thali, our bag full of books from school down, grab the bag for Punjabi school, and then be excited to go to Punjabi school. And to look, for Babaji, you would teach us, Guru Ki would teach us, art, would teach us carpentry, and then he would chase us out onto the field and say, go ride your bike around. He was just a different way. And then we would take part in Seva. We would be, we absolutely belonged in that space.
It was like a fun for you.
It was a place where we belonged. It was a place where we saw Sikhi in action, and it was a place of love. It was a place of compassion. It's a place of kindness. We would make langar on the weekends, and then we would make sure we made more than what the sangat would take, because we knew people would come with Tupperwares and containers from every community. Who were less fortunate, so they could take some of that food home, and we would prepare for that. We wanted to do that.
I think that's what is in the blood of Punjabis, I would say, to serve people, and the smile is always on the face.
And then like coming out of joy, not out of pressure.
Well, and that's what langar is.
Yes,
isn't it?
Langar
That's what langar is. Whether it's langar through seva through food, whether it's langar through seva in providing some other, support to someone who's needy, needing that support. That's what langar is. So we saw that in action. We saw that. We were part of that. And so that sense of service got ingrained in us, and it became part of our DNA. And then I saw my parents, my father, and others do the same thing.
Yes.
And the joy that we got out of that was, I still
different kind of feeling.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely.
And I'm sure when you came in here as well, must be a hard time, as you already said, like there's a lot of hardships and racism you have to face. What was your first job you got into?
Farming.
So was it berry picking?
Yeah, berry picking. Put whatever word you want in front of berry, I picked it. And so, we would start.
Was it in Abbey?
In Abbotsford. And it was, it's not because that's the job I wanted to do.
Yeah.
It's because I couldn't get any other jobs.
Because of your identity.
Exactly. Yeah. I applied at McDonald's. I applied everywhere.
Yeah.
And you could, sense that they were, thank you very much. We're not hiring people like you just now. So not having the ability to go into any of those jobs, the only thing that was then left was labor work. So farm.
Sorry, I cut you out here. You said I would not hire people like you.
Yeah.
How was that feeling at that time? Especially, don't you feel anger?
Well, you feel that you didn't belong. You didn't know what to do. Like, how do I...
Being a young blood, like, you really, want to do something.
Well, because it was a feeling. It wasn't anything that you could actually, demonstrate or prove or say, this is racism. But you knew what it was. I mean, we've all had that feeling. We've all know how somebody looks at you, behaves with you, and it's not because of who you are, it's because of the way you look.
And also, I guess after a certain point, you don't want to entertain it. Just let it go.
Correct.
Whatever.
Well, how are you at that time? I didn't even know. I mean, at 16 years of age, how do you fight? How are you fighting?
What could you do?
Yeah,
what are your options there?
Yeah, exactly. Where make a human rights complaint on what?
Yeah.
I don't even know if there was a human rights commission back then, right?
Yeah.
So, in the Charter of Rights had just come in as well.
Right.
So this was all just starting to, take form.
Right.
So
from berry picking to RCMP, how did that journey start?
Yeah, not in the farms.
What was in between?
So I guess I would say this. I mean, as young people listen to this podcast and listen to this story and the stories of many others, I would say that, hardship defines you. Hardship molds you. Hardship gives you opportunity to grow. If you've never experienced hardship, you're missing out. I would say, looking back, I'm glad I got to work in the farms. I'm glad I was woken up at 4:30 in the morning by my mother and said, "Get ready, we're going," and then not get home till about 7, 8 o'clock at night. When the sun goes down, and you're so tired, your body is aching. You hardly shower, and land in bed, and you're out cold. I mean, I've never slept the way I've slept back then.
Yeah.
And you work 7 days a week, and you'd pray for the rain because that was the only day you get a day off. But that hardship, those challenges defines who you are, builds character. I mean, I say that, people say that, but it does. It does build character.
Not gonna lie, I know like whatsoever you're saying, it's true. But like when you are in that situation, so many
It was so
people,
hard. It was
Yes.
so hard.
so many people just back off. They're like, no,
Yeah.
we can't do it.
100%.
But like the one who stays there,
Correct.
like also like reach somewhere else. They're like,
Yeah, well, and I use this, metaphor often that, you take a piece of metal and you find it in a just a piece of ore or metal. It's just nothing. But if you put that on an anvil and you beat it and you put it into a forge and you heat it up and you do that over and over and over and over again, what will come out of there is this beautiful sword that you can then take into every battle. Right?
yeah,
That's you. That's a spirit. That's a soul.
that's,
And so once you are beaten, once you are put into heat, once you survive, and that's where you learn things like, and I share this with folks, there's 2 words that start with the same 4 letters, victim or victor.
yeah,
It's a choice,
Yeah.
right? Both words start with VICT, and then they go different ways.
Yeah.
The decision is yours. Do you choose to be a victor or do you choose to be a victim? Right? Because many opportunities to be a victim. And I often say to young people, I say, why do you go to the gym?
yeah,
Well, to get stronger. Well, you don't get stronger standing in a corner. You get stronger by lifting those weights and then adding more and then adding more and then adding more.
but starting somewhere.
Life is no different. If you're not challenging yourself, if you're not struggling, if you're not
Yeah.
facing hardships, if you're not moving through those moments, and you're not going to succeed every time. The first time you put a whole bunch of weights on, you might say, oh, this is too heavy. I might
Yeah.
not be able to lift it, but you tried.
Yeah,
The thing is you tried.
no, definitely,
And now you know where you need to go with that, right? And how to get stronger.
for sure.
So I would say all of that shaped my life ahead. And when I went to Frankfurt Secondary, as I started school here,
Yeah.
I mean, I was the only person with a distar.
Yeah, regardless of other Sikh students there.
Yeah, there was a few other Sikh students there, but I was the only one with a turban.
Yeah,
So now you've got a school where there's over probably 300 kids, and you're the only one there. I mean, that's the universe saying, let's see how you do here.
You would get like
Yes.
stares,
Yeah, let's see if you survive this one.
Yeah.
right?
And then we'll see if we give you something bigger.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
No, definitely. But coming back to the question again, like from being in the farms to RCMP,
Yeah.
what was in between and how did that journey start?
So
RCMP, how did
Yeah.
that come in the picture?
So I graduated from high school, and then I went. I was in pursuing criminology at Kwantlen, back then college, now university,
Yeah.
with this hope and desire to enter into law and legal studies.
Mm-hmm.
So while I was at Kwantlen, one of the professors shared with me that if I wanted to be successful in my application to law schools, that I need to do better with my CV and add experiences, volunteer work, so that my CV stood out. And that it would be useful. And he was an ex-police officer. And he said it would be helpful if you maybe volunteered with, the police agency, law enforcement, or the RCMP locally,
Yeah.
or someplace else. And so I took his advice. The RCMP came to Kwantlen College looking for volunteers, and I put my hand up and I started volunteering with them to put in place the Block Watch program in
Yeah.
Surrey. So that's where this whole thing starts from. That's where this gets seeded. I started volunteering. I
Yeah.
got to meet other RCMP officers. I saw how satisfied they were with their work. And these were honorable men and women who would come to work 20 minutes early, had a smile on their face all day long, would put all of their heart and soul into the work they were doing, and then would stay late afterwards,
Yeah.
and talk about, what they could do better. They weren't watching the clock at all. It wasn't a, type in, tap out. This was like their life and a career. And
Passionate.
yeah, completely.
Yeah.
And while I got to see that, I also got to see when I went out on ride-alongs with police officers that when they went to calls, that oftentimes there was, members of our community that were in struggle and in trouble, and we would show up and they would gravitate towards me because now they were talking to me in Punjabi. And they didn't have to explain Taya, Chacha, Nana, Dada, Nani, all of that, right? They knew exactly who, that I understood them.
Right.
And as I saw that over and over and over again, because I would translate for the Caucasian officers. And at that time, I think there were only about 3 or maybe 4 other Punjabi police officers. And in Surrey alone, I think maybe there were 2.
Okay.
So there was there was no representation. The community was growing.
Yeah.
But there was a lack of representation. And that was also the year that the RCMP was on a recruiting drive to invite people from different communities to join the RCMP.
Okay.
So over a 2.5 year period, I made a conscious decision to move away from pursuing a law degree to pursuing a career in law enforcement because of all of those reasons. And my colleagues, my friends, the people that I, got to know, they also encouraged me. They said, "But you'd be really good at this. You should apply."
Right.
And so that's how I got to making the application to law enforcement.
What was the first feeling when you actually wear the uniform?
Oh my gosh. So that was after everything that had happened. And my first opportunity to wear the uniform was when I got to Regina in November of 1990. So for a week, we were there without uniforms. They made us do all kinds of funky stuff. We can talk about that another time. But and it is about teaching somebody humility, and the RCMP has its own way of doing that. And then after that week, then we went to what they call stores. And basically, it's where they kept the uniform.
Oh,
so
okay.
I went there with the rest of my troop, and that was the day that I got my uniform and my dastar, my RCMP turban.
I was just going to ask, was this after the debate or was this before the debate?
This is all after.
This is all after.
This is all after.
So first you struggled to be inclusive, and then you got into this.
Correct.
Okay, I guess let's get back to how did this all started?
Yeah.
So when you first thought of joining RCMP, and then they said, okay, so did they say you have to
Yeah. So
remove your turban?
Yeah.
Or
so
how did that go?
application is only a part of it. So you apply.
Okay.
You write an exam.
Right.
Then if you pass the exam, you go for your interview. If you pass your interview, then you go for your physical test, your dental test.
Right.
And back then, now there's a few more steps that you have to get through. Then you have to go through a security clearance process.
Yeah.
If you get through your security clearance process, then and only then they invite you and they offer you a position.
Okay. So you got passed through all of this, but then when did they say?
So that was back in 1989.
Okay.
I applied in 87, 88. In 89, I got invited by the RCMP, one of my colleagues, actually friends, by the recruiting section to come to the Surrey detachment. I went there and I went to see him, Corporal Bob Rogalski, and he said, "Voltage," which is Canadian for voltage. Voltage. Good news for you. You passed everything. Your security clearance has come back clean.
Yeah.
All is well. Want to offer you a job. I want to offer you a position in the RCMP. I mean, this is a dream come true. This is
That
what
was
I've
a
been
moment of
working on.
joy for you.
Yeah, it's incredible joy. I mean, incredible feeling that I've arrived.
Yeah.
This is now happening, right?
Yeah.
And I think that lasted all about 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Because right after that, he said, all you got to do now is just, cut your hair, remove your turban, shave your beard. We're good to go. I said, no, I can't do that.
You have a problem here.
Yeah. So sorry.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen.
Not going to happen. Not going to do that.
Right.
And so now we were stuck. He said, well, I can't offer you the job if you're not going to follow the policy.
Mm-hmm.
I said, well, I can't take the job if that's what the policy requires me to do.
Yeah.
And he said, okay. So we got stuck. I mean, we were 2 friends that now didn't know what to say to each other anymore. So after a short period of silence. He said, okay. He says, well, I'm sorry, I can't offer you the job. I'll write a memo in your file saying that you rejected the position because of the policy and that you cannot comply because of your religious
Right.
requirement.
So was it actually documented somewhere that you can't? In
That-
Canadian history or
There was a memo that was put in
okay.
at that time that said I rejected the offer because I couldn't comply with the uniform policy.
So there was like actually a policy there to not wear a turban.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That was the reason why they
Mhm.
couldn't offer me the job, because there was nothing in the uniform policy at the time that would allow me, or for that, somebody from the indigenous community who wanted to keep braids, or somebody from the Jewish community who wanted to wear a kippah,
Mhm.
or somebody from the Muslim community who wanted to wear a hijab. There was
Mhm.
you had to comply with that uniform policy, which was, very, very short hair, no beards, and be clean shaven, right?
Mhm.
So there was no policy.
So when did you decide, okay, I'm going to fight for this and I'm going to like stay firm to my decision and also be RCMP?
Well, I think the decision to fight it was the day that they said, "Are you going to change?" And I said, "No, I'm not."
Yeah.
That was the moment we started the fight.
Okay.
Because here's the other part: is that I didn't just apply to the RCMP. I applied to the New West Police. I applied to the Vancouver City Police. I applied to the Delta Police. I applied to every law enforcement agency in the Lower Mainland because my interest was not to be an RCMP officer, but rather to be a police officer.
And give back to the society.
Yeah, it didn't matter where I served.
Yeah.
I knew it, as long as I was in that profession, I could.
Right.
The RCMP was just that the RCMP was the national police force, and every other police agency was waiting to see what the RCMP would do before they would offer me a position.
Gotcha.
And so, or not. I think the only department that came out very blatantly said, West Vancouver Police Department at that time said, "No way on God's green earth." The chief came out and said, "No way on God's green earth are we ever changing our policy to allow anyone with a turban to join the West Vancouver Police Department."
Right.
Well, they have police officers now that wear the star, so
Okay.
clearly,
Yeah.
Making sense.
yeah, it was. There's been a cold day in hell
Yeah.
because it did. So, so when that happened, this became, the newspapers got a hold of the story, found out. And you'll remember back then we didn't have any of the internet or all of the social media, so it was all on print in radio or TV. And the news got a hold of this. They printed the story, and that's when it went wild. The entire country
Yeah.
engaged in this debate, and this was on the news just about every day, if not every other day. Right?
It became a national debate.
It became a national story, national issue,
Yeah.
which was important
Yeah.
because there was so much attention to it.
Right.
It absolutely caused and required the RCMP, the government, to turn their minds
Yeah.
to this issue. If it had not, in my view, if it had not become a debate, I don't think they would have even. Why bother?
No, definitely. And
There's no
also like
pressure.
when, we were like looking at your like, just, like history and like how did this all begin? We looked at that there were 250K petitions signed against you
Yeah.
during that time.
Yeah.
And how did you mentally stay strong and, fought against everything which was happening back then?
Yeah. So at times it was personal.
Right.
At times it was against the community. And while I was representing the community, I didn't take it personally.
Mhm.
I took it as something that I'm representing the community on this issue.
Right.
But it's not personal to me. It is an issue.
Right.
It is an important issue. But it's a community issue.
But at the same time, a person still feels it personal because there must be challenges in your day-to-day life.
Or from your family or
There must
community.
be a backlash coming in.
Well, there were members of my family who said, "This is never going to happen. This is Canada. They're never going to do any of this
Yeah.
stuff." So that wasn't very helpful. But
Yeah,
but-
because like sometimes your family members say, "Oh, like don't waste your time
Yes,
here. Do like
yes.
something else."
Go do something else. Yes.
Yeah. Did you get something like
We
that
did.
from your family?
I did. There were members of my family who wanted me to go back into legal studies or become a pharmacist or something else. And it's important to know that there was I believe 14 other applicants before me
Okay.
that had applied, that had at the start, who, when they got to that point, either just abandoned their application or they cut their hair
Cut their hair.
and joined. So when I came along and this then became an issue, a number of things had changed. We have the Charter of Rights that allowed for people in Canada and Canadians to be able to practice their way of life and have freedom of expression. So that is a right that we carry as citizens.
Yeah.
So now you have to debate that question. The only time that a person is going to have to, someone is required to wear a particular type of a uniform or safety equipment is exactly then.
Yeah.
Is exactly that, when their safety or the safety of others could be compromised because of an article of faith. Wearing a forge cap or a Stetson was not going to afford me any more safety
Yeah.
than the start was. Actually, the start probably afforded me more safety than a cap.
True.
So there was no reason, there was no bona fide occupational reason to not allow me to be able to practice my faith.
But then how did this came to place that, okay, like now, like from now, like Sikhs can wear turban? Like how did that happen?
Yeah, so it was debated.
Yes.
It was debated in Parliament. So what happens is the RCMP, whenever there's a change in uniform,
Yeah.
the commissioner makes those recommendations to Parliament.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes to the Minister of Public Safety, and then the Minister of Public Safety in Parliament can adopt those recommendations or not adopt those recommendations.
Okay.
So after about 9 or 10 months of debate,
Oh, wow.
where we had pins that were made against Sikhs, there was like a picture of a Sikh RCMP officer with a no entry sign on him. Posters, calendars that were made of a fellow by the name of Herman Bittner in Alberta, who painted his face brown, put on a funny-looking turban, put on an RCMP uniform, put on moje, and grabbed a sword, a curved sword like a karpan. And then on the bottom it says, "Does this make you Canadian or does this make you Sikh?" SICK.
Oh my God.
Right? And that was the first poster, and then he did it again the year after that. And so I have some of those posters now. They're in my Senate office just to remind people.
I'm sure.
I have
Must
all
be a
the
different kind of feeling. All
Those are
that.
different
I have
kind of
all the
feeling.
pins as well. There were road signs on highways that big road signs that said no to turbans in the RCMP, and a big no entry sign
On the billboards.
on the billboards. Yeah. So this all happened all across Canada. This is happening everywhere.
Oh my God.
So this is where that 250,000 people, while those are the people who signed the petition, there were many, many others who took upon themselves to do all these other things as well. Right?
They actually took it personally.
Correct.
Quite a bit of the country was involved.
Very involved.
Yeah.
So 9 months, 10 months go by, and then finally the RCMP commissioner makes the recommendations to the change. That went into Parliament. Parliament accepted it. That was August 30th, 1990. Sorry, August 1st, 1990. I was accepted August 30th, 1990.
How was that feeling? How was that day for you
Amazing.
after so many months?
Incredible.
How
Wow.
did you celebrate it?
I went to the Gurdwara.
Of course.
I was invited to hear the decision at the CBC, news sort of building. And
So you were there at
I was-
CBC News?
I was CBC News in downtown Vancouver
Okay.
because they knew the decision was going to come the next day.
Okay.
So there's a video of me sitting there, with Ian Honeyman saying, watching the Solicitor General take make the announcement that today
Right.
they're going to. So it was incredible. It was the way I felt, when I was sitting with a police officer, recruiting officer, who said, "I've got an opportunity for you. we're going to hire you." So I had the same feeling. I said, "Okay, finally."
But I
Now
think
it's done.
but I think the feeling at that time was way bigger because you also made the history. Now you were the like first turban RCMP guy who could, like wear turban and also serve the community.
Didn't know it.
Didn't know.
That was not anything that I had any awakening around that somehow I'm making history. Didn't have any sort of any idea of any of that how important this was going to be. Who knew? My purpose, my goal, my objective was I want to make sure that I am able to pursue this career that I wanted to, where I found so much satisfaction and it was important. And then also not surrender myself and lose myself in it and give up my identity and my relationship with my father.
No, definitely. And I'm pretty sure like after your, like fight, so many other people after you were like, okay, now we can be part of the RCMP and then, or even like the police, police enforcement and everything. And they would love to join and serve to the community. But also, when all of this was happening, was there concerns of your safety?
I never got any death threats per se directed at me when this was going on.
Yeah.
It was a different story when I got into training. So I'll share that story with you. But let me go back a second and say, I did not know how important that moment was going to be for Canadian history. But looking back and having now, 37, 38, 39 years in this country and having served 35 years in law enforcement and looking back at that moment, it was the moment where Canada said to members of racialized communities of different faiths that you're welcome and that you are an important part of this country and you have equal rights to serve in all of the institutions of this country without compromise to your own faith and your traditions and your culture. That, I think, was probably the most, I put it into words today in a good way, but back then it was just a feeling. It was like, okay, the Charter of Rights is real.
Yeah. It was not just like turban, but it was also the other faiths which were included in this.
Correct. Someone to be able to wear a kippah, the Jewish community. Someone to wear a hijab from the Muslim community.
Right.
That was a bigger achievement than anything else. To let other community enter into this as well.
It was the first example of inclusion, in my view, of this country, where we said, okay, the RCMP allowed women to serve in 1974. So it was 1974 when the first troop of women were allowed to serve. I sit with Senator Bev Bussin, who was part of that first troop. She often tells a story that on the morning that the government said, today we're changing the rules that women can be allowed to serve, she that morning at 8 o'clock in the morning went to the detachment to apply. And the person that was standing, the RCMP officer that was standing at the counter said, no, we don't hire women. And she's saying to him, the rules have changed.
Today.
Yeah, and he's looking at her and says, no, I don't think so. And then she said that shortly after that, a sergeant came out from behind an office space and he had tears in his eyes. And he said, yeah, the rules have changed. Give her the form.
Oh, wow. So tears were in the eyes because he did not
Correct. They were sad.
to apply.
They were sad. That the rules had changed to allow women.
So no tears of joy.
No. It wasn't tears of joy. It was tears of depression, tears of heartache, tears of disappointment.
Yeah.
So she tells that story.
For you, it was different, right? Because you already had friends or like the people already knew in the police department, and then they want you there as well.
Well, the people that knew me were the people that I worked with.
Yes.
But they were not the people. They were not the entire RCMP.
Okay.
Because that was not the kind of, I didn't get that same kind of welcome in other places.
Okay.
I had to fight for every position. I had to fight for every opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? So when I got accepted and I went to Regina for training, that's when the real sort of, challenges began. Because, day one, when I got there was 600 other recruits, cadets in Regina. I was the only one with a turban.
Mm.
When women joined the RCMP, there were 32 of them and went through as a troop.
Yeah.
I didn't have that.
But you were just
I was myself. So when I got my troop mates, that became my second family. Now, I don't know of anybody in my troop that was against this.
yeah.
We were all just trying to be successful and graduate.
You're right.
And I remember when I got my RCMP dastar, the first day I tried it on, I put my dastar on and back in the dorm.
right.
My troop mate said, "Hey, can we try it?" I said, "Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Here you go."
Yeah.
Right? So they all tried it. They all put the turban on. We got pictures of them with their turbans on. And that's
An
what
amazing feeling all in all.
that's what living in a community is all about.
Yeah. And from here, taking it a bit fast forward from your journey from RCMP to
Yeah.
a senator.
Yeah.
So how was that feeling when, and how did you got this opportunity, like appointing from a prime minister of Canada to serve in the parliament as a senator? So
So when Prime Minister Trudeau came into office, and this is back in 2016, 2017, he changed the rules on how senators would be appointed. Prior to him changing the rules, senators would be appointed at the pleasure of the Prime Minister only. There's no process, there was no application. When he came in, he changed that to put in an application process. So you would apply online, and there would be a committee in the province that would review your application, shortlist that application, and then they would review it with the Prime Minister's office. And then from there, shortlist it again. And if you made that shortlist, they would vet you. And if you survived the vetting, then you would have another interview with the Prime Minister's office. And if you make it through that interview, then you would get the call. Then you get the call from the Prime Minister. And that's exactly how mine went. Only I applied back in 2016. So we're in 2026, and it was 2025 that I got appointed last year. So I kept applying because somebody came from the community to me and said, "Baltej, you should apply."
Yeah.
10 years.
Yeah.
A decade.
Yeah. And you have to renew your application every 2 years. Every 2 years, you have to go back. You have to get 3 references from the community that would speak on your behalf. And you have to keep updating all of your achievements and the work that you were doing in the community. And there's no guarantee. I mean, I think hundreds of people apply. I'm sure of it.
Yeah.
And so I'm really humble. I'm really grateful. I'm so privileged to be able to have this opportunity to continue serving as a senator.
And being in the young community who don't understand who senator is, could you please elaborate for them, like what senator's duties are towards the prime minister or towards the country?
Lok Sabha, Raj Sabha.
Making it simple here.
Simple touch.
So I would sit in the Raj Sabha. The only difference here is that that within, so there's 2 houses in Canadian federal politics. There's the House of Commons, and then there's the Senate. And so in the provincial politics, you have the legislature.
Like Vidhan Sabha.
Yeah. And then at the municipal level, you have the council, the mayor, and all that. So at the federal level, you have these 2 houses. They're both in Parliament in Ottawa. The elected representatives, which are the members of Parliament, they bring forward all kinds of legislation, bills, laws that they want to enact. Like we're debating C-12 now, right? An act to modernize immigration here in Canada. So they bring forward legislation. That legislation is debated, brought into committee, studied, and then when they are ready and they feel that they've got a good product, then they send it over to the Senate. The Senate then does the same thing. It'll accept that. At second reading, it'll go to committees. And within committees, we study the bill. We invite different groups, different people, citizens, whoever believe that it's important that we hear their testimony.
Right.
And based on that evidence, and we assess the bill itself, we might make amendments to the bill to ensure that the bill doesn't have unintended consequences for folks that are marginalized, folks that have disabilities, folks from racialized communities, and that it's and it's compliant with the Charter of Rights and the Constitution and the spirit of this country. And all of the freedoms are afforded to everyone, and we don't in any way, shape, or form abuse or go against some of our commitments, both to the international community and international doctrine, as well as to our Canadian sort of ethos and the Constitution, the Charter of Rights legislation, and the Supreme Court of Canada that oftentimes also has the final say on any law. So once we've done that and we believe that we have amendments that we want to send forward, the senators will debate that within the Senate. And then then we vote on it. And wherever we land on those votes, if those amendments are accepted in the Senate, it gets sent back to the House of Commons. For the House of Commons now, the parliamentarians there to look at it, the members of Parliament look at it and either accept it or reject it. If they accept it, that becomes law. If they reject it, it comes back to the Senate.
For amendments?
No. At that point, we have to make a decision because they will say we're not accepting any of your amendments.
Yeah.
And they reject the amendments and they send it back to us for us to then, we have the final vote. So the Senate can, if it wants to, it hasn't happened yet, cancel an entire bill altogether by saying, no, either you make the amendments or we're not passing this bill.
Okay.
So the Senate has that power. It's not used often, hasn't been used actually,
Yeah.
largely because we have deference and we give respect to the fact that the other house is a house made up of representatives that have been elected by citizens of this country. We are appointed. So we give respect, we give that privilege to those members of Parliament that they are there representing communities through a process of an election and a legal election. While as people that are appointed, we don't have to go through that process.
And you said you talked about C12, the modernizing the immigration policy of Canada.
Yeah.
So can you explain a bit on that, like what's going on and what's coming up for Canadian future?
Sure. So there's a lot of conversation. I mean, the bill will look at modernizing how we address issues around permits, whether it's work permits, student permits, study permits, also around information exchange between agencies. It'll look at identifying opportunities where if there is an administrative error or some sort of, then government has an opportunity to cancel permits as well. So it has a lot of areas where it's being debated right now whether or not this is going to have unintended consequences. It also has within it, different. So it's Bill 5. The sections 5 to 8 are probably the ones that are most debated currently and in the news. And we had our premier come out and say as well that we need this bill to support some of the issues that we're facing here in BC with extortions and so on and so forth. It allows for greater, and I believe I shared this information sharing between agencies so that when there is challenges to the public security, that we don't have to get warrants to get information that a government agency already has. So that bill has a lot of, and in many ways, it's also a response to some of the things that the U.S. has said to us, that you have weak borders, you have porous borders, you have weak immigration policies, and so on and so forth. So that's what's in the bill. It's in the Senate right now. I'm going back next week, and I suspect it's going to be 2 weeks of a lot of conversation, a lot of debate, and good work. And I think this is where the systems and the way we look at new laws and legislation with the independent Senate, and every senator is independent other than the conservative group. We all vote the way we think is the right way to vote. So we all have our own independent ability to vote in a certain way.
Yeah. And how closely the Canadian government is looking at the crime that you just spoke about in BC, and especially not just BC, all over Canada. How closely you guys are looking at it from an immigration perspective?
So economic terrorism is what I call it. Extortion is what others have called it. It's been an incredible pressure on the community, on Canada, on law enforcement, on every part of our society. When you have this level of violence, indiscriminate shootings, and potential, and some people have, and there have been homicides as well, murders as well, and it's continuous and it's daily. It has a incredible impact on both our trust in law enforcement, our trust in whether it's safe to go out, and
it's a feeling of fear.
Yeah, incredible amount of fear. And then businesses are having to make a decision where they never had to consider in the past whether or not it's safe to open a coffee shop.
Yeah.
Right? So this is absolutely one of the most important things that is occupying the minds of legislators, police officers, police agencies, both at the provincial level, municipal level, and federal level. And you may have heard in the last little while, I'm also part of the community advisory group that has been put in place by the Premier and the province to support some of the work that law enforcement is engaged in, and also help rebuild that trust that community, is struggling with, and also offer opportunities of where we can modernize some other ways to address this issue that is oftentimes not available through the Criminal Code of Canada.
And when it comes to, as you said, Premier David Abbey as well as now Mark Carney been visiting to India, how's the relationships going to go from here? Looking at the past situation, what was there before a year ago?
Yeah, I think Prime Minister Carney wants to improve the relationship with India. I would like to see that improve as well, but with the condition that we have greater conversations around security and public safety. We have cases going on in the US. We have a case here with going forward. We have the RCMP and security agencies that have come forward, that there have been foreign interference, that there's been information that's been collected by members of the Indian government here and shared back to, Indian agencies that have been weaponized. And as a result of that, they've come back into this country, recruited individuals to carry out what they call kinetic activities, which is basically kill people, right? And target people. So from my perspective, as a member of the community and as a member of the Senate, I would like to, and I've written about this as well, is to get assurances from the government of India that if there are actors within their government, that are behaving in a way that places the security of citizens in Canada and Canadians at risk, that they will root it out, that they will stop that, prevent that, and work with Canadians to identify who those individuals are so we can take action against them. I think that is a guarantee, that's a promise, that's a commitment that is needed, along with any type of economic guarantees and economic cooperation. One cannot be at the cost of the other, or at the at the loss of the other.
And what kind of response you guys have so far received when it comes to Indian agencies and law enforcement?
At my level, I don't see all of it. I wasn't there when all these conversations took place. I'm hopeful. I would like to think
there's a dialogue still going on.
Correct. Okay. That there is going to be an increased cooperation of ensuring that any kind of actor, whether it's or anybody from within government in India that is engaging in this type of activity that places Canadians at risk, their safety at risk, that there will be a high level of cooperation to interfere with that and to prevent that from happening.
When you see, you said US as well just a while ago. So coming back to Canada and US relationship, it's not as great as it was before. So what's your take on Mr. Trump?
I think that is probably the understatement of the year. That the relationship is not as great as before. I think we are at a very difficult place. I think President Trump has made it difficult for the entire world to understand, what is going to happen tomorrow. And so that uncertainty, both economically, in peace settings, and also peace around the world, and peace policy around the world, is making it very, very difficult to have any type of kind of gauge around how to, create policy or build policy that you can actually have faith in. So the constant goalpost changing makes it very difficult to understand where you're going to shoot next to make sure you actually score. That's where I think Prime Minister Carney has done a fantastic job in going around the world, building new agreements, building new, opportunities, and also within this country, in our own country, looking at ways to fast track some of our projects, build prosperity here, and bring new opportunities for Canadians that we're not so reliant on the United States to determine our way forward.
And that's what I see, like when instead of going to US when he got selected first, instead of going to France and UK and building those relationships means a lot, especially when it comes to economics.
Yes, absolutely. I think, and that's where, our own sovereignty, and this is where, coming back to the India-Canada relationship, our sovereignty, our security as Canadians, our own sort of status as a nation has to be a part, and has to be primary, has to be one of the priorities of any conversation before you make deals at the economic level, right? If you're not sure that, when I go into your store that I'm going to come back out alive, then I think that's got to be the first conversation. Then we'll talk about what I'm going to buy from you, right? True. So this is where I think there's a lot of conversation now. I've written about it in the past, and I continue to hold this government to account when it's about India-Canada, relationships. Don't get me wrong. I want to see us thrive. I want to see us prosper. And we have no enmity. We don't have any, in our Punjabi word, dushmani with the people of India. Not at all. My family's there. We have family, relatives, friends, all are there. What we have is challenges with the administration. And that's where we got to do better. We have to do better. When there's intelligence agencies in the US and Canada who have come out and said that they're government actors that are involved in actively collecting information, operationalizing that information, using that information and weaponizing it to then create harm and cause harm and injury to Canadians, that's a problem.
I think in a nutshell, so better cooperation is needed to actually solve this problem for the long run relationship.
Sincere cooperation is needed. Yeah.
And when we're talking about Canada and US, we can't miss China here. Because when it comes to US and China, obviously the relationships are not great there too.
Yeah.
And how would you summarize it when it comes to China being in a good relationship with Canada at this point?
Well, I think China's records on human rights is not one that stands out. It's troublesome. It's problematic, and we know that. We've had our own Canadians that have been illegally arrested and held there at times, and we know of times where China has done some things that we all look at and are not the standards that we would apply. So again, I think while we engage in economic conversations and look for a shared prosperity, and we are moving through some times that we never thought we would be in, I think it's also important that Canada continues to be a leader in ensuring that human rights are held to a high degree, and that's not a conversation that's forgotten.
And summarizing it in a way, like where do you see Canada in the next 5 years?
Well, I think the way we're going now and the trajectory we're on, I think we're going to be far better positioned economically. I think there's, I certainly see the types of legislation that is being brought forward, and some of the regulatory changes that are occurring, some of the structures that are being put in place to fast track big projects. Look for innovative solutions and support Canadians and Canadian ingenuity and innovation, I see a complete shift and a change that creates a pathway to prosperity and opportunity for Canadians, and also invites the world to invest in Canada.
Taking a step back for a second, why it wasn't done before in the previous government?
I think because we were just cozy.
Or we're so dependent on US?
Dependent. It was, things were fine.
I was just gonna say, like, do you think like we will be still so dependent on states, or no?
I don't think so. I think, we still have, like, we're dependent on them for about 80% of our, exports, but I think we want to diversify, and that's the plan. We don't want to find ourselves in the situation, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years from now, because I don't think Canadians would, in any way, shape, or form forgive government, because the question's going to come up, so why didn't you learn from back then?
Yeah, and especially I feel like this is a kind of like eye opener.
Yeah, it's a watershed moment for us.
For everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a watershed moment for all of us in this time. And this is where I think also in moments of desperation, we can do things that may be out of alignment with who we are as Canadians. And this is where I think the Senate is so critical now, critical, that it is, and this term is used often to describe the Senate, the second sober thought, to ensure that we have a lens on all the legislation, ensure that it complies with the Charter, the Constitution, that marginalized, racialized, and people with disabilities are not forgotten or, in any way, shape, or form harmed or lost or left behind, and that we continue to move forward with all of our values and principles intact, and we don't lose ourselves in this hardship.
That's true. Okay. Out of all of these cases going on, what's the number one project on your desk right now?
So and I've been moving this along for the last 15 years. I've been trying to advance different ways of addressing organized crime and gangs. Organized crime and gangs continue to plague our communities. Fentanyl is a result of organized crimes and gangs. We have lost so many young lives to organized crime and gangs through violence and shootings in other places. And we have organized crime and gangs here in BC. So this has been a project of mine ever since I've been in law enforcement and now as well. Okay. So, and I'm starting to put some of those pieces in place to help advance different initiatives that I hope will address and support our fight against organized crime and gangs.
Makes sense.
It's a great conversation, I guess. Explaining from your journey versus what's happening in Canada and what the government is planning.
Yeah.
And I hope people get to know a lot about you now, especially, as I said in the start, like our age. Any last message that you would like to give to the young Canadians or young immigrants who are coming to Canada?
Yeah, I was just speaking to a class at JIBC the other day of young people who are moving through school, and I would say this: when you come to this country, someone may have sold you a false dream. There's no money growing on trees here. Sorry, no gold paved streets, no diamonds to be picked out of rivers. But here's the guarantee, and I'm living proof of it. If you work hard, if you commit, if you give it your all, this country will meet you. Will meet you where you are. And so, as I say to my two daughters, hustle. Don't let any moment go by without you hustling, without you putting in everything that you've got. And then take risks. Make sure you're not just doing things that are safe. Go out, take some risks. Not wrong risks, good risks. Not bad risks, good risks. Extend yourself. Finally, give yourself into community. Serve. Be of service to others. I often say that you've got to start building your character references early. So you may not get that through a job, but you will get that through volunteer work. And those people who stand with you, my first character reference, the person who spoke for me when I applied to the RCMP, was the owner of the farm where I picked berries. Right? And so and he spoke on my behalf. He talked about how hard I worked. What did that have to do with law enforcement? Nothing other than he spoke to my character. He spoke to my values. He spoke to my principles. So to young people, I would say, build out your character reference Rolodex. You need to do that.
Right.
And work hard at doing that. And finally, I would say, don't be afraid of taking on hardships. Don't be afraid of taking on challenges. I often say to my kids that if you see people running away from something, that's where you want to go to, because that's where the opportunity is. If you get there and you have a challenge in front of you, and you put your efforts into it and you succeed, you'll be remembered as the hero. If you fail, you'll be remembered as a person who tried. But you'll be remembered.
True.
So this is where I would say to young people that this is a country of opportunity, but the question is, are you ready to claim that opportunity?
So
Great
well
words.
said. Honestly.
Really appreciate your time and making it happen. And we feel really honored that you came in on our show. And I'm sure the audience must have enjoyed the podcast today as well.
And honestly, sorry, I'm cutting you off,
Yeah.
but then truly, like, your journey has, like, inspired me as well, like, personally. And I'm pretty sure, like, people would love to, know and learn more from your journey and, like, amplify on their life.
Thank you. You're very kind of you. I hope, and I'm going to play on words here, my 2 cents were worth it.
I'm sure they were.
Thank you
so
for
much, Senator Balji Diloji.
Thank you.
And I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. See you guys in the next one. Till then, good luck.